Welcome to the Fresh Pair of Eyes Masterclass. I forgot for a minute what I was doing. This session will take probably just under an hour, but it will depend on questions towards the end. So I'll record up until kind of the end of the session, and then when we get to Q&A, I'll stop the video recording, and then you guys can feel free to ask questions and know that you're not being recorded. So just a bit of housekeeping. I am recording it. I know Laura came through with her email address, and I know I've got you guys' email address, so you don't need to pop your emails in the chat bar because I know you all. But you will need a pen and paper for this. So I know sometimes when you come on sessions with me, I get you to bring your mobile phone, but just need something that you can scribble some notes down on. So please feel free to grab yourself a pen and paper. I'm just letting somebody else into the session. What's going to happen on this masterclass is that you guys are going to do all the work. It's a session where I am going to be asking some questions, and you guys are going to be kind of scribbling your answers down on your piece of paper. And then when we get towards the end of each section, I'll ask you to kind of share some of your scores. You don't have to share, but you can feel free to share any scores that you want to in the chat bar. And as I say, when we get to the Q&A at the end, if you'd like to talk about any of those scores in a bit more detail, we can do that off the recording. But one of the things I want to make sure that you guys are doing is using your CEO eyes. So you are the CEO of your business, and I want you to take yourself out of the business of being everything from tea maker to office cleaner to designer to accountant to social media to every other thing that you do in the business. So all those plates that you juggle, I want you to forget about all of those for a minute and just look at your business from a very, very high level with your CEO eyes. And because I want you to detach yourself from kind of like the day-to-day stuff that goes on, which is tricky on a Wednesday night at 7:30 when you've been working all day. You think, oh, geez, do I have to, I've got to get going again. But the other thing that's also important in these sessions is don't compare yourself to anyone else. Don't beat yourself up. This is really important for me, that when I ask the questions in each section, if your answer is no to everything, that's okay. It just helps you understand where you are in your business journey. So I don't want you coming out of the end of this going, oh my God, I've got a list of 50 things I need to do, and now I just feel really overwhelmed. I do want you to feel inspired and motivated after the session and not feel like Vicky's dragged you through a hedge backwards. Just a little bit about me. I've got a bit of new photography on there. Some of you ladies might not have seen the new images yet, but my name's Vicky Labinger. I am a wife, mum, and small business owner. I am both an interior designer working mainly on residential projects. I do a little bit of commercial work, but it's not something I advertise greatly. And I'm also a mentor for interior designers in business. So for my design services, you can find me at My Clay Brick Home, which is the house I live in, and my parents have owned since I was 11. I don't still live with my mum and dad at 53. Unfortunately, they've passed away, but I live back in the family home that my mum and dad left to me. So if you want to ever check out any kind of design stuff, you can find me there. Anything around business services and mentoring, you can find me at vickylabinger.com. So that's a little bit about me in my bright yellow sweatshirt that I decided was a really good idea on my brand photo shoot day, and never again will I wear a bright yellow sweatshirt, but here we go. Feel free to introduce yourself to each other in the chat. I know some of you guys know each other, so I know Fiona and Claire know each other quite well. I don't know if Anna's met Fiona and Claire before, actually. Might have met them in a couple of sessions. I don't think Laura's been on anything with us before, so feel free to share your contact details in the chat, share your social media links. I know you guys aren't each other's ideal clients because you're looking for, interior design work, but you're my ideal clients when it comes to working with business services. But it's always good if you can get a couple of extra followers. It always makes us all feel a little bit better. Okay, so in terms of the Fresh Pair of Eyes Masterclass, we're going to focus on 3 areas, and we're going to spend 10 minutes on each area. So I have got my trusty alarm clock, which isn't very loud, but I'll know when it's ringing. It will drive me nuts because it will tick all the way through it. And we're going to spend 10 minutes on each area. So we're going to spend 10 minutes on revenue, expenses and profit, 10 minutes on services and pricing, and 10 minutes on marketing. Now, when you do a fresh pair of eyes one-on-one with me, we spend sort of 25 minutes on each section. So this is like an abridged version, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how this works, in case you're interested in doing it at a one-on-one level with me. But I'm also asking some questions that hopefully will give you an indicator of the types of things that perhaps you need to start working on in your business. So those are the 3 areas we're going to focus on. I'm going to ask you a set of questions. Some of them are really simple and they are just yes or no. And they're as simple as that. Some of them you might need to think a little bit more, but we've got around sort of 10 questions in each section. So you're not going to have loads of time to sit and mull on your thoughts. It's going to be what comes to your mind straight away. And what I'm going to ask you to do in each of these areas, these 3 areas, I'm going to ask you to score yourself. So the scores are 1, 2, or 3. 3 is you're absolutely bossing it. You know exactly what you're doing. You know the majority of the answers to the questions I'm going to ask you. Without even looking them up, you can go, yeah. And you know, I'm on it. So you give yourself a 3 for that. If you're struggling or you don't know where you need to find the information to ask that question, or you genuinely have got gaps to fill, then you give yourself a 2. And if the answer is a simple no to most of the questions in the section, it might be that you're just starting out, or that you really need some support and guidance in that. As I say, none of these are right or wrong answers. It's just to give you an indicator of where you are in these 3 areas in your business. So bossing it is 3. It's kind of a simple no is a 1, and we'll look at your scores afterwards. So you can draw yourself a little grid if you want. You can scribble it down on a piece of paper. I say, I'm not going to ask you to send these to me. I'm not going to critique your creativity for putting a grid together. It's purely just so that you've got something to note down your scores in these 3 areas. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back. So I'm just going to set my clock. Is everyone, do you want to give me a thumbs up if everybody is clear on what we are doing? Yep, awesome, Fiona. Cool. Right, I've got my trusty kitchen timer, which I've now set. So the first section that we are going to go through is around revenue, expenses, and profit. So really simple question to get you guys started. Do you have a business bank account? That is a simple yes, no answer. You either got one or you haven't. Second question is, how many months worth of expenses or salary are expenses slash salary are in that account? So for example, if you know that your expenses every month are £1,000 and you pay yourself £1,000, you know you need £2,000 every month to run your business. If you've got £10,000 in your business bank account, you know you've got 5 months worth of expenses and salary ahead of you. Now, if you answered no to question 1, and you're currently collecting all your business expenses in your personal accounts, then you may find question number 2 tricky, because you may have all of your, I'm just letting a couple of people in, you may have all of your, expenses all tied up together, and therefore you're not really clear about what you've got for particularly your business. So I'm just letting Emma and somebody else in. Hi, ladies. Welcome to the session. We're just getting, I've just kicked off with the first section around revenue, expenses, and profit. So I'm just going to go back for 2 minutes while the others think about those questions. What I want you ladies to do that have just joined me is I want you to draw yourself a grid on a piece of paper. And I want you to just write these 3 statements: revenue, expenses, and profit, services and pricing, and marketing, because you guys are going to be scoring yourself out of 3 for each of these areas. Your scores are going to be, if you're absolutely bossing it and you know exactly what you're doing, you're going to give yourself a 3. If you're not quite sure and you're wavering, it's going to be a 2. And if you definitely know most of the answers to the question are a no, then you're a 1 and you're just getting started, or maybe need to do some work on your business. So I was just going through the first set of questions. So the first question in the revenue, expenses and profit, easy question. Do you have a business bank account? Second question is, how many months worth of work of expenses and salary do you have in that account? So it's just saying, if your expenses are £1,000 and your salary is £1,000, that's £2,000 a month. If you've got £10,000 in your account, you've got 5 months worth of expenses and salary. Question 3 is, what is your sales target for the month? So you can do the month of June if you want. We're only halfway through. So do you know what your sales target is for June? Or maybe you've done June and June's so last year. June's over. I mean, the minute you start a month, it's done, isn't it? In our day these days, you can, if you know your sales target for July, that's also important. And do you know what your sales target is for the year, for 2 years, for 5 years? Now, not everybody sets a 5-year plan. Some people set a 3-year plan. Some people set a 2-year plan. It really just depends on where you are in your business journey. But the idea of this is that you have some forward planning to think what your sales and your growth potentially is going to look like over the next year, 2 years, 5 years plus. The 5th question is, what is your biggest expense? And it's funny because I recorded this masterclass back in April, and I was just re-listening to it today just to check I wasn't going to forget anything. And I said on this call, my biggest business expense was either my SketchUp license or my insurance every month. I completely forgot about the fact that I spend the best part of £2,000 a year on networking. It's such an integral part of what I do, but I've forgotten about it. So yeah, my biggest expense is the networking organization that I belong to. But what's your biggest business expense? And then question 6 is, how often are you reviewing your financial plan? So if you've got a financial plan, are you looking at it every month, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, every day, every hour, every minute? How often are you reviewing your financial plan? So those are the 6 questions in this section. What I'm really looking for is that you have got a business account, that you have got 2 to 3 months worth of expenses and salary as a minimum in there, that you absolutely, if I took you all off mute now and I put the spotlight on you, you'd be able to go, yeah, my sales target for the month is X, and you would know that number. And then you might know your number for the year. I know my number for this year and year 5, and I know that 2, 3 and 4 kind of go up in gradients in that. Kind of have a 5-year plan about what I want to do with my Claybrook and VickyLavinger.com. And for your business, you need the same kind of trajectory. As I say, it doesn't need to necessarily be 5 years. You absolutely should know where you're spending the most money in case business is tough and you need to kind of pull back. And in terms of reviewing your financial plan, as a minimum every quarter, but ideally every month, you should be looking at your expenses and obviously your revenue that's coming through. You're probably looking at your sales numbers anyway, looking at what clients you've got, what invoices are being paid, and where you're earning money. But you need to be looking at that in line with your expenses. As I say, as a minimum every quarter, but I would recommend every month. And you may do that with an accountant, a bookkeeper. You may do that, just by yourself. It depends on your own kind of ability and your backgrounds. Some of the ladies know here, I'm a data junkie. I love numbers, I love maths, and therefore I am quite happy to spend time looking at my kind of numbers and my finances and my data points sometimes than I am actually doing design work, because I am a bit of a data junkie. So has everyone given themselves an overall score for revenue, expenses and profit? Just give me a thumbs up when you've got your overall score. As I said, I'm going to get you to pop them in the chat at the end if you're happy to share them. And then when we come off, when I stop the recording, we can do some Q&A about some of those numbers. Now we are 1 minute ahead of schedule, so that's good. Right, the second section, just putting my timer back to 10 minutes. The second section is on services and pricing. Question 1 is, how did you, or do you, because it might be something you're either doing or you've done, how did you decide on your service offering and prices? Did you look at your local competition and go, well, that's what they're charging, and therefore that's the price I need to charge. Did you mathematically work out, I'm going to spend 10 hours doing a job and I'm going to charge £50 an hour, and therefore my price is going to be 500 quid? Or did you just put a finger in the air and go, that's where I'm going to start? So interesting to know, how did you or do you decide on your services offering and pricing? Are you kind of finger in the air, or are you really thinking about the amount of time and work and the value that you give to decide on those prices? Question number 2 is when did you last review your pricing offer? Have you reviewed it this year? Or we're in June, aren't we? Yes, so we're 6 months into the year, but when did you last review your pricing offer? Question 3 is, do you track time on a project? So when you're working on a particular project for a client, I'm not saying we need to be accountants and track every 6 minutes, because I believe accountants literally charge by the 6 minutes. I'm not saying we need to be doing that, but are you guys tracking time that you're spending working on a particular project? Number 4 is, how many of your clients do you charge additional hours on? We all do it. We all get involved. We give a price for a job. Client comes back and asks 8 other questions that kind of weren't included. We end up doing additional work and potentially not charging for it. So how many of your clients, you can either put kind of that as a percent, yeah, probably a percentage is a good way to do that. You know, if you've had 10 jobs and you've charged 5 of them extra hours, you're kind of at the 50%. Question number 5 is, at what point do you mark a job as complete? So do you have a process in your business where you invoice a client? You might take a 50-50 split. You might take 50% upfront and 50% on completion, and you send that final invoice and you get that 50%, that, you know, that balance paid. At what point do you go back to the client and say, right, this is everything completed under whatever your invoice number is? Or is it an assumption that by paying that invoice that job is complete? Just interested to know, at what point do you mark it as job is done? I'm all paid up, I'm all done. And question number 6 is, are you requesting signed terms and conditions from a client before starting a job? So a relatively simple yes or no. I do mine in a slightly different way. So within my invoice, I have a statement that says, if you are on paying this invoice, that is, you are accepting the terms and conditions of the invoice and the work that I'm doing, and the terms and conditions are on my website that they can get a link from. Plus I also put some key statements in there, but I don't actually physically ask them to sign it. But I've just got a statement that says, by making payment, that is your acceptance of the terms and conditions. So that is the section on services and pricing. In terms of your business, where you want to be is you want to be looking at your pricing. I would recommend at least once every 6 months. You may look at it and you may not change it, but there may be different parts of your service offering that perhaps is taking you longer. I mean, let's face it, none of us are going to put our prices down. That'd be a joy, wouldn't it, for most of our clients? But when are you looking at them? When are you thinking, right, the prices do need to go up? When do I think, actually, I'm going to plan that into my schedule, and I may not put the prices up, but I'm actually going through the process. I tend to do mine every January and then in September. So kind of new year, new start. And September for me, September also feels a bit like January for me. Kids go back to school, it's new term, it's kind of fresh school year. So I always look at mine twice a year. I don't always put them up, but I will reflect and do an exercise that says, do I need to make any changes to the pricing? Am I spending longer on particular types of jobs? And that's why it's important that you guys are tracking time on the work that you're doing. Now, I always get asked, what app or what system or what tool do you use to track time? I have nothing sophisticated. I have a Post-it note and I will just mark on it across the course of a week how long I've spent on particular client work. There are apps out there, there are systems out there, but it's just another thing to update, whereas I'm pretty old school and just use a Post-it note on the side of my computer. So that is section on services and pricing. So give yourself a score, 1, 2, or 3. So 3 is I'm absolutely bossing this. I'm checking my services regularly. I'm checking my pricing. I'm tracking my time. I'm making sure I send through additional invoices on hours. I'm closing off jobs when they're done, and I've got all my signed T's and C's. Are you a 3? Or are you just getting started and some of these practices need to be put in place and kind of refined for you? So that is section 2. Just going to change the time. Is everyone okay so far? Do you want to give me a thumbs up if you've got your scores done for section 2? Yeah. Are you guys all right with the pace? I'm not going too quickly for you. Cool. Okay. The third section is marketing. I ran a really interesting workshop on this yesterday, actually, around defining marketing strategy. Some really good conversations going on. But do you know where your ideal client hangs out? Have you identified where you go and find your ideal client? And I haven't put this question in here, but do you know where your ideal, have you figured out who your ideal client is? Once you've figured them out, do you know where they hang out? Do you know where to go and find them? Are you a 1, I have no idea where they are, or a 3 going, do you know what? I know exactly where to find them. And if I go and market to these particular places, I always get leads come through. Are you then regularly marketing your business in that channel? So for example, if you say that your ideal client hangs out on Facebook, she or he's there every day, they're in particular types of groups, are you then marketing to that particular group on a really regular basis? And regular isn't once a quarter, Fiona. Regular is 2 or 3 times a week. I'm going to pick on Fiona. Regularly marketing in that channel. Question 3 is, how much time each week do you spend generating new leads for your business? So have you got time assigned in your working week to go and look for new leads or try and generate new leads? Are you reaching out to people or organizations that can help you grow your business? One of the things I've done for this workshop, and I'm not sure if it's how perhaps Laura found me, is I went through Instagram and I looked for interior designers. I created an email program, and I sent out 3 emails to that, what I would call a cold list group, but it was interior designers, so I knew it was my ideal client, inviting them along to this workshop. So I'm trying to generate new leads, people that might be interested in the work that I'm doing to help interior designers. But how much time are you spending each week generating new leads for your business? Question number 4 is, how often are you talking to your existing clients or your previous clients? Depending on how long you've been in business and how long a project takes for you. I mean, I've just had a review for a project that we started in June last year. Just been waiting like 5 months for some doors to be delivered. So, it's taken a year to get that job done, although in reality it took 7 months from start to finish. It was just the final piece. So I won't talk to that client probably for another 3 to 6 months, but I'm looking at clients that I'm talking to or working with from the first quarter of 2022. But how often are you going back and talking with your existing or your previous clients? And question number 5 is, are you tracking where your clients come from? So if you're doing an initial discovery call or you get a reach out from somebody, I have people pop into my calendar that have seen my Calendly link somewhere. And one of the questions in my when you book that session with me is, can I ask how you found my business? Some comes through Facebook, some comes through just Google searches, some comes through networking, but I always want to know exactly where my clients are coming from. So if I know I've got one particular channel that actually a lot of business comes through, I need to make sure I am marketing to that channel. I'm just going to turn the clicker off because it's driving me nuts. So in the section on marketing, we want to know where our ideal client hangs out, and we want to be marketing to where they hang out. I would recommend at least 3 times a week, if not more. In terms of generating new leads for your business, I mean, I do a lot of this. I spend an hour a day generating leads. Now, lead generation isn't, you know, me just trying to find interior designers to talk to for the My Vicky Labinger part of my business. It might be talking with a architect that I am doing a bit of business with, that I want to see if he's got any extra leads. So it isn't just about, you know, finding that direct design client. It could be networking with somebody that actually that can then help you get to your ideal client. You should be talking to your existing clients on a relatively regular basis. You don't want to make a pain of yourself, but I would check in with clients that I've worked with at least twice a year. So I've got a little rota that I follow in terms of checking back in. And everybody should be tracking where the clients are coming from. You need to know where that business is coming from. So give yourself a score out of 3 for those, whether you are a 3, bossing it, a 2, yeah, I'm doing okay, but there's work to be done, or you're a 1, I'm not doing any of this and I need help. Okay, everyone good with their scores? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm going to get you to do this in a minute. Actually, you can pop them in the chat now if you want to, but I'm not going to talk about them for a minute. So you can hold fire if you want to, but effectively you should have 3 scores. And when we come to the chat, you can either put them in the chat as like I've done 2, 2, 2, or commas between them. You don't have to share your scores if you feel uncomfortable doing that. This isn't a naming and shaming exercise. It's really about you guys feeling in these 3 areas, and there are lots of other areas for business, really where you are right now and where you potentially might need some help. Because once you've put your own fresh pair of eyes on your business, you can then start to identify where you need help, where you need to take action, and then potentially where you might need some help to actually help you with that. And implementation is hard. So what you guys have probably done now is you've probably put a ton of things on your to-do list that you're now thinking, oh my God, when am I going to get those done? Or you may have things on your list already that you don't actually want to do them or don't know how to do them. I've always got things on my list that I actually don't even want to do, but I know I need to get them done. And over time, those things become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in our minds, and then they become such a task. Have you ever had one of those pieces of work where you've made it so big in your mind that when you've actually come to do it, it takes you 5 minutes and you're like, why was I making such a big deal of that? But implementation is hard. It's hard to find time to do these things. So just a quick bit in terms of how you can work with me, and then we'll look at, I'll take the recording off and we can look at you guys' scores. So there's different ways you can work with me if you want to implement some of the things that perhaps you've come up with today. You can book a chat with me. You can find me at vickylabinger.com. We can also do the full fresh pair of eyes. So if you want to do the full session on this, I offer that on a one-to-one basis. It's a 90-minute session that we record, and I give you in each area the 3 things that I think you need to work on first to make the biggest impact in your business. I am going to run some implementation days. They're either going to be online or face-to-face, and the first one will be in September. So if you are interested in something that might be a bit more face-to-face or online, just pop interested in the chat, and when I've got some more information on September's, I will let you know. Or you can come over and join Designers Getting It Done. Now, I've been doing quite a lot of work, and I've just recently qualified as a business strategist alongside kind of doing the interior design work. And one of the things we have to do as part of that strategy course that I did, so I couldn't think of my words then, was actually writing our missions, vision and values. So I just wanted to share this with you. So my mission is to create a space to give interior designers the skills and tools they need to be confident and successful in business. So that's why I kind of run these sessions, to really help you guys get the skills and tools that you need, if I can point you in the right direction to be confident and successful. But one of the things I have is I have a group called Designers Getting It Done. It's a community space hosted on Facebook where I run weekly and monthly events. You can either come along live, or I record the relevant sessions. So every month I do, well, every week I do an accountability online session. It's on a Monday at 1, where you can come and work in a virtual space. Every month I run a 90-minute workshop. So yesterday's was how to define your marketing strategy and make it happen. Next month's workshop is why email marketing is still important and how to make the most of it. So there's different workshops every month. I also run a monthly review and goal setting session and a hangout. And it is a private group where you just get access to that group and then a kind of a private portal of where everything is stored. In terms of the group, there's no minimum term. You can come for a month and go, or you can stay as long as you like. I don't have any kind of rules around it. You've got to sign up for 12 months. It's a monthly subscription. It's £25 a month for the first 20 members, and then it will go up to 35. It's basically on an hour by hour basis, it's less than a price of coffee. Unless like you're like my mum, who used to drink Nescafe. I think you could buy a jar of Nescafe for like £1.50 back in those days. You can find more info over at vickylabbinger.com. And actually, if you decide to come over and join and enter first month free, guess what? You get the first month free. It's not rocket science. All of that information you guys will get on email tomorrow, because I will send the recording out. So don't worry if you haven't got all that information or you've forgotten anything on there, but I just wanted to share that with you. And I will be sending you an email tomorrow to ask you your feedback from the masterclass today. So if you can just take 5 minutes just to drop me a reply on that, that would be absolutely awesome. So we're going to get into the Q&A and see how you guys have got on. But I'm just going to stop the recording now.